Right, we are going to start with the big breaking news this afternoon that the Arsenal defender Gabriel is out for the rest of the season. The Brazil international needs surgery on a hamstring injury. It's a huge blow to their Champions League aspirations and, of course, the two-legged quarter-final against Real Madrid. Gabriel was forced off early in Arsenal's 2-0 win over Fulham on Tuesday, with Jacob Kiwior coming on to replace him. A club statement this afternoon has confirmed that the injury is severe. Said this, Gabby will undergo a surgical repair procedure to his hamstring in the coming days and immediately begin his recovery and rehabilitation programme with the aim to be ready for the start of next season. Well, his loss couldn't come at a worse time for Arsenal, with Arteta's side facing a tough run of fixtures, both domestically and in the Champions League, with the Emirates hosting their quarter-final against Real Madrid next Tuesday. And these stats really show how big an impact the defender has since he joined the club almost 5 years ago. They've conceded more goals, dropped more points and have a lower win percentage without him in the side.
It's horrible news. It's the news that we all kind of feared after the way we saw Gabriel pull up in the Fulham game. You could tell instantly that he was in quite a bit of discomfort. I hope that him sort of getting up off the ground and trying desperately to get back into position because the ball was still in play hasn't done any further damage. And I hope that's not the reason that he's ended up in a situation where he requires surgery. But this is the third one for Arsenal this season. You know, 3 players now requiring hamstring surgery. And I know people will talk about Arsenal's role in this, and I know people will focus on maybe the lack of rotation with regards to certain players, but I think this is a problem that we've got in the game generally at the moment. The volume of hamstring injuries, full stop, is alarming, and I don't know what the reason is because I'm not a medical expert, but it's certainly something they've got to be working on, trying to get to the bottom of in the background. The timing, as you said, it couldn't be worse. You know, for a long time now, it's felt as though that the Premier League title is headed to Anfield. And so the Champions League has been the real focus. And there's been so much excitement and anticipation around this Real Madrid game, which is coming up. And to lose the player that, for me, is the player of the season for Arsenal, it is a real big hammer blow.
But Gabriel is not just key defensively for Arsenal. He's a major part of their set-piece threat, which has, of course, led to many of their goals in recent seasons. And that's underlined by this statistic. Since the start of last season, out of all the defenders in the Premier League, only Manchester City's Josko Gvardiol has scored more goals than Gabriel's 7.
He's been so consistent at both ends of the pitch. He's been immaculate almost defensively, and he's been such a threat going forward. And I worry that him missing is not just going to have an impact in that left centre-back position, but all over the pitch. You think about young Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's come in at left-back and done incredibly well. I think he's been able to thrive, not because, you know, partly because Gabriel's been able to kind of sit there alongside him and guide him, you know, tell him when to go, tell him when to drop, pull him in close to him when he needs to. I think that's a really important relationship. So I think Lewis-Skelly's going to be impacted. I think William Saliba's going to be impacted because Gabriel tends to be the aggressor and the one that goes after the ball. And often you see William Saliba come over and kind of clean up. So his role is going to have to change and be adaptable. There's so many reasons why this is a real big problem for Arsenal.
Arsenal are already up against it in the Premier League title race. 12 points off Liverpool with 8 games left. Gabriel's injury comes just as another key player, forward Bukayo Saka, returned from a lengthy absence with a hamstring injury as well.
Like this the whole season. I mean, you see Martinelli today, you say we miss in 3 months. You see Bukayo 4 months, Kai 4 months, Jesus almost the whole season, you know. How we have managed to be where we are with all those injuries. Ben White that hasn't participated at all this season is what it is. But we want it so much that we're going to give it a real go, and we are very excited for the next week.
So Arsenal will likely bring in Jacob Kiwior to replace Gabriel at centre-back. The Polish international's only made 9 league appearances so far this season, but could now be Arteta's first-choice centre-back to partner William Saliba in the final games of the campaign.
For me, it's dependent on the fitness of Ben White and Jurrien Timber, because in all the talk about Gabriel, it's maybe been overlooked that Jurrien Timber had to go off the pitch with an injury as well. I'm hoping he's okay. I'm hoping that was precautionary. And if that is the case, and both of those two, Timber and White, are available, then I would personally wouldn't start Jakub Kiwior. I'd put either one of Timber or Ben White in alongside Saliba at centre back. They're both capable of playing there, and then I'd approach it that way. But if only one of them is available, then I think you have to use Jakub Kiwior. And it's not a criticism of the player, because he hasn't played an awful lot of football, and when he has, he's often played at right centre back, which doesn't necessarily suit him, or at left full back, which again I don't think necessarily suits him. So you'd be putting him at least in a more familiar position. But just based on the little we've seen, I think it's quite clear there is a drop-off.
Well, you can hear the Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta address Gabriel's surgery live on Total Football tomorrow at 1:30. And we may hear from Arteta on this transfer line as well. We understand they're interested in signing Athletic Bilbao and Spain winger Nico Williams this summer. Williams shone, didn't he, as he helped Spain to win the Euros last year and went on to be linked with some of Europe's top clubs. He's played primarily as a left winger, and Arsenal are looking to strengthen in attack. Arteta said recently it would be a big summer for the club in the transfer market. And here's how Williams compares this season to Arsenal's current left wingers, Leandro Trossard and Gabriel Martinelli. Williams has more goals with 9. He also has 7 assists, creates more chances per game than the Arsenal pair, attempting more dribbles and also completing more dribbles as well.